Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Ready to have your extreme dreams come true? Charlynne Boddie says she can make it happen. Charlynne, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you, Bill.
Charlynne, I'm sorry. You have a concept, extreme dream. Can you tell us what you mean by that? I think we know the words, but what does that mean to us and success?
I believe every person, Bill, has something that they would consider an extreme dream, something that is far past what they're currently doing, but something they hope to achieve in the future, but may not know how to get there.
And I have the feeling you're our guide and you're going to get us there.
Well, yeah, that's my aim always with any client that knocks on my door.
And by the way, I'm going to tell our audience as we go through the show, Charlynne is going to give us some success stories that she had. And I think you're going to find some of them amazing, all of them, obviously, but you'll look at it and say, wait a minute, if this person can do it, my task is easy. It'll be a piece of cake for me. When you're working with clients, do you mentor them? Do you coach them? Do you give more or less a talk and then they work off of that? Or is it one-on-one or groups? How do you work with people?
It really depends, Bill, what the client wants. Sometimes I have corporate business owners say, I would like you, Charlynne, to work with my leadership team. I've done that in Europe, but I've also had couples come to me that are not CEOs. I've had couples that are CEOs come to me, but I've also had people of, a family way, so to speak, with children that they're concerned about without a vision or purpose in life. And they've hired me to work with their sons. And over time, Bill, I'm not sure why, but I could probably write a book about men that have given me their sons to coach into success and reaching that extreme dream that every young man has.
Now, that's a real compliment. And I know life didn't start out that easy for you. You tell us early on in your book that you were kind of the nerdy kid. Am I correct?
Yes. My nickname in junior high was Books and Homework.
I thought so, but then I said I didn't know if you wanted me to mention that or not. So we're glad it was Books and Homework because doing the homework and reading those books led us to where we are today, and you're helping make people successful. Now, how did your dream of doing this come about? Were you doing something else or did you just go into this?
Well, Bill, I tell you what, the Extreme Dream Seminar and the book True Grid that goes with it, that is really the textbook for the workbooks I wrote for the Extreme Dream Coaching Seminar, actually came about as a download when I was at probably one of the worst points in my life after a head-on collision with a drunk driver. 2 cars hit me at one time. They had to cut me out of the car. And, many different doctors kind of gave up on me because they couldn't figure out how to stop all the different things that were wrong with my body after that hit. They basically said, you won't be able to do what you used to do. You have a brain injury, you have a spinal cord injury, a lot of nerve damage, you have internal bleeding we can't stop, just so many different things. And I, am a woman of faith. I'm also an ordained minister. And I said, God, what are we going to do? How am I going to get out of this bed? And the download for Extreme Dream came out of a serious cry out to God. And my mentors, who are branding experts in London, they said, would you come share this download with us? And I thought, I haven't tried it on anyone in America yet, let alone Europe. Are you kidding me? And they begged me to come, and they brought together 1,000 people that had lost their jobs in 1997 from ages 21 to 60. All of them were in transition, and they were my first guinea pigs for Extreme Dream.
Now, that's some way to start. Most speakers or mentors or coaching, I think if people had a group of 5 or 10 or 25, to be even modest, but I think that would be a good attendance. You started out with a group of 1,000?
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes. And it was so scary, Bill, because I said to my mentor, I said, are you kidding me? You're well known. I said, that's why they all came. They know you, but they don't know me. And he basically said to me backstage, you're not a chicken, you're an eagle. Get out there and fly. He said, you're no longer my mentee, you're now my colleague. And I was crying, Bill, backstage. It was so scary to me. What came out of that was some of the top business leaders and entertainment leaders in the UK came out of that class.
And, we know that comedians even start out and try jokes on small, they would rather a small audience on an off night at the bar or something, 5 or 10 or 20 people, to see how the jokes and the stories bounce. You didn't even have that chance. You had 1,000, and these sound like pretty prestigious people. These weren't down and out people. They were people who either had success or at least had a taste of it.
Yeah, they had been successful, and then everything, was in that economic downturn in the late 90s in England. And oh my goodness, what a hard audience to deal with. And yet what came out of that was long-standing relationships with people who are highly revered in the business world and the entertainment industry today. It was amazing what came out of that class.
Now, this show has been on 35 years. And as I said to you before the show, you're the first person in your notes who said in the notes that one of the things that you give credit to is that you have an amazing lawyer. And as a lawyer myself, you're the only person who gives the lawyer credit. What is it about your lawyer, I don't know if it's a man or woman, who was so instrumental in your success?
Well, first I'll tell you that my lawyer, Jeff Mackler, is who really stood out to me as someone that I should get in touch with. He was the lawyer for Liza Minnelli. He was also the lawyer for the first Superman in film, Christopher Reeves, a lot of A-listers. And everyone said to me, "You're crazy. There's no way an A-list lawyer out of Hollywood is going to handle you." I'm a television producer by trade. My degree is in television, film, and journalism. And I just thought to myself, I know that I've always been told start at the top. They can say no, Bill, but what if they say yes? And so
that's a great title for a book. They can say no, but what if that's your next book?
Oh, you know what, Bill? I'm going to hold on to that because that just might happen. I would love to do a book with that in mind. So thanks for that. But when I called this lawyer in West Hollywood, he said, "Why in the world would I want to come to Denver? Everything I do is in LA and I do not deal with A-listers, people that are not A-listers rather." And I said, "Well, wouldn't you want to see your children?" And I found out that his children were in Denver. And he went quiet on the line. He said, "How do you know I have kids in Denver?" I said, "I have spies." He said, "Well, will you buy me lunch?" I said, "Yes, I will, wherever you want to go." And I kept my word. And by the end of lunch, he was laughing his head off with my sister and me. And he pulled a contract out of his briefcase. He said, "You've got yourself a lawyer, Miss Boddie."
That's a great story. And as I said, we've done over 1,700 shows. First one to have a compliment for a lawyer. It only took 35 years. So in 35 years from now, we'll probably get another compliment.
Well, I have to tell you that I asked him another favor. I said, not only am I asking you to be my lawyer, but would you team up with a book and music lawyer I've also chosen? And he agreed to it, Bill. So I have this power team that are well-known lawyers in their fields, and they have saved my bacon and my sister's bacon numerous times in the industry so that our intellectual property was protected, and we just came out smelling like roses with our first show in Hollywood.
And I think just being associated with these kind of people, if others hear that raises your status right away. And for all of us, we always like to think that either the boss is taking note of us or someone prestigious or someone who has an element of fame, even if it's just local in our town or region or county. If they know us, we must be somewhat important. So obviously you make a great team and a great road to success. Now,
we couldn't have done what we did in Hollywood without our two lawyers, Jeff Mackler and Jim Bingham. I mean, they are stellar. We had one for television and film because we write for both, and also book and music because we have intellectual property for that's literary in nature and also musical. And we wanted all four parts of our creative ability covered by two of the best attorneys in the business.
Well, there you got it. And they have the best success person in the business. So it's a win-win for everybody. Charlynne, before we go further, I'd like to let our audience know if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Charlynne Boddie, spelled Boddie. Her book is True Grid, Discovering God's Custom-Designed Blueprint for You. And Charlynne, would you tell us, is there a website where we can learn more?
Yeah, you can find out about the kinds of seminars I've done and retreats I've done around the globe at charlynne.com, which is just my first name, CHARLYNNE.com.
And of course, we'll give our audience that information. If you didn't get it down, we'll give it to you at least 2 more times during the show. And this is information you want to take down. Even if you don't think so, within 2 or 3 weeks, your husband, your brother, someone's going to say, gee, I wish I knew how to get on the path. And you're going to say, I heard a show last week, but I forgot. Get the information down, and when you're asked, you'll have it. And you'll be on, like Charlynne is today, and talking about your success story. Charlynne, your version of success and your clients, how do they compare? What if someone said to you, what is success? How would you define it?
I would define it because I believe every single person, Bill, has greatness inside of them. And for some of the people that come to me, they haven't discovered that greatness that I believe is put inside every human being that is God-given. I believe we are multifaceted beings. I believe success really is about using who you are as a person, your natural gifts, and then finding fulfillment in those gifts that you've been given. Every single person is multifaceted with many gifts, but not everyone knows how to use those gifts, and also, how to use it with passion and make a living from it. I know so many people that have come to me and said, how do we make that work? How do we put all those entities together? And there is a way to do it. And I believe that Extreme Dream Vision Seminar is really key for that, for every human being that chooses to work with me.
Now, how does that compare to a typical client who comes up to you? Do they basically say the same thing, or do they say, look, I'm going to make it simple. Just want to make $1 million, or I just want to make 30% more than I made last year, or I want to get all my kids into college. What is the usual back and forth with the client?
Usually people say to me, Bill, that they're looking for something they haven't found yet, and that they've spent a lot of money looking and going to various psychologists, psychiatrists, and so many others. And not to say that those fields are not worthy, they don't always work for everyone. And so I'm usually kind of the last stop for many people. And they're like, boy, I'm going to give up on that extreme dream, Char, if nothing happens with you. And I'm saying to them, let's take a look at all 3 parts of you. The Extreme Dream Seminar looks at the body, soul, and spirit of a person. What are you doing in the natural realm? What are you doing for the emotional side of you, which is your mind, will, and emotions, that is your soulish realm? And what are you doing, the spirit? We're 3-part, beings, What are you doing with the spiritual side of you, which really is tied to your overarching blueprint for life, that vision for your life that you were designed to see happen? And so if it hasn't happened yet, then we aim at getting someone still enough to work on those issues. And it's fun and it's creative when people work with me.
Now, I took a quote out of your books, just a few words: simple steps to live your unique vision. And I think that encompasses everything, because when I looked at the book, I said, this is what a lot of people want. It's kind of an outline, what to do. There's some inspirational sayings and stories. And in fact, one story that kind of blew me away, I think the characters, and we talked about it before when we chatted, were Sue and Ben. And can you tell us about them and how they fit into your success story?
Okay, Sue and Ben were a couple with a blended family. So they had her 2 daughters from a previous marriage. They had his 3 daughters from a previous marriage. And then when they were married, they had a son together. So there were 6 kids total. And when they met me in that first class in the United Kingdom, Bill, they were about to lose their house, their cars, everything. Both of them were out of work. The wife did not have high school credit at all. She did not have the credentials for graduating high school. The husband was an accountant who felt that he could handle millions of dollars if only someone would give him a chance. And, when they came to me, nobody would. And I remember that they cried for the first 3 days, probably. And somewhere along day 3, I said, okay, are we willing to put the tears down for a moment and let's look at something new? And oh my goodness, Bill, the wife that didn't even have a high school diploma is now a PhD in a very challenging area of psychology. She deals with people that have very distinct, unusual, unique learning disabilities. The husband, who was an unknown accountant in someone's back office, became a CFO for all the different American hotels that were brought into the United Kingdom that were never there. And he also headed up all the financial management for some of the United Kingdom's top pub franchises.
When I read this story, I said, this has disaster written all over it. That's why I couldn't wait to read the next lines, how it was going to work out. But the blended family, the lack of the degree for the wife, and both losing their jobs. I mean, most of us at least have something to fall back on, our parents or a friend's house or someone who'll give us a menial job to carry us through a few weeks. And then someone wanting to be an international accountant at the highest range, and he apparently was kind of a lower level. And yet they reached the success levels you talked about. So that's a great endorsement. I mean, that story blew me away. And I said, my gosh, I have to ask you, is it true in all aspects? Because there was so many complications to that could have made it go wrong. And, unfortunately, that's what happens.
You're right. And that's why there were so many tears when they met me. They thought, lady, you must be out of your mind. What do you mean? You can see our dream coming to pass. The wife had the learning disabilities. She now helps other people conquer. It just blew her mind. She was one of those people. And she said, no way can I do school. I said, I just don't believe that. I believe that we're going to get around that. An extreme dream is how we're going to do it. We are going to take bite-sized, doable chunks over the next 5 years for both of you. We're going to look at you individually as separate spouses, but we're also going to look at your family plan. What would you like to be able to do for your children? All 6 of them. And they've done that and then some. I tell you, their story is just incredible.
Now, you talk about extreme dreams, but I read the term in your book, dream stealer. What's a dream stealer? What or who or how do they get stolen?
Well, Bill, dream stealers are those people around us that maybe get a whiff or hear about your dream or your vision for life, and they poo-poo it and they put it down. They tell you, no way can you do it. They might even mock you, Bill, or laugh at you and say that's impossible.
I'll tell you that I would have been the one who, I wouldn't mock them, but I would say, if you told me that story about Sue and Ben, I would say there's no way. I mean, or if you gave me a multiple choice, which one of these will be a success story? They would be at the end of it, because it seems so many elements, so many things that could go wrong. And just with a family, if you're trying to go to school and reach new heights for the husband in a job. So whatever you're telling people and whatever you're doing obviously is working and seemingly working very well.
Well, and I love that, because I just believe that everyone needs a cheerleader. In your lowest point, we all could use a cheerleader.
And unfortunately, as I think you mentioned before, most of the time we get the person who says, I told you so. Look, why don't you stay within your sphere, be a neighborhood accountant or be a tax accountant or do something. Or maybe to the wife, get a job at the local store. You can be making money, you're still doing things well, and you can achieve levels there, moving up in management. But you somehow your encouragement got them through, and you must have the magic words like those great salespeople. What do they say? They can sell the ice to the igloos to the Eskimos. And,
exactly. Well, you know what? And there's so many people that have come to me with huge dreams, and I don't, get the dreams. Well, I just want to open a flower shop. That's nice and lovely. We can help you do that. But what about these impossible dreams that people get laughed at about? I had a taxi cab driver's daughter come to me, and her high school suggested I talk to her because they said we didn't know what to do with her. Now, this is one of the top high schools in America, and they turned her down with the dream she had. And she said that she wanted to work for someone called George Clooney. And, it actually happened.
And you're talking about George Clooney, the actor, right? If I'm correct? Right?
Absolutely. Yes. And then she said, oh, Charlynne, I want to be a comedy writer as well. And so within the first year of working with Mr. Clooney, she gets to work for a little TV show you may have heard of called Friends. And we sat. I'm
going to put you on a lie detector because this can't all be true.
Yeah, it's so true. And so, we sat with her in her living room with her parents, who at first thought I was probably really crazy. They were just like, how can this happen? With our daughter, who didn't grow up in LA, how can this be? And it happened. We sat there, we watched her name go up in the credits. for the television show that's world renowned called Friends. And everyone in the room was weeping. Some of her college teachers, not college, sorry, her high school teachers were in the room grinning but crying, happy tears. And, every VCR in that day was on record in that house. I don't know how many recordings they made of that, but oh my goodness, did her dreams come true.
And I have a friend who's a writer, and he writes for shows like that and movies, etc. And I know from following his career, typically a writer has to go to one of the top schools in writing, much like in business, you go to a Harvard or a Yale or an MIT, etc. And then prove yourself with 18-hour days, kind of doing both the scut work and sitting in a room coming up with jokes, and you work your way up. To go from almost being a high school dropout to writing for Friends is absolutely awesome. We want to come back.
Yeah, well, she was, I'll correct you there on that, Bill, if I may. She was a straight A student, but I think the high school was just amazed by her dream and just said, we don't know who to send you to, but could you just call Charlynne Boddie? Tell her your dream and see what she says. And I said, how exciting. But is that all there is? I said, I know that you could work for George Clooney. He's a great guy. I'm sure you'll learn a lot, because he was just starting his production company at the time that she became his assistant. But I said, is there anything more? And later she said to me, I want to be a comedy writer. And she wanted to work for a major show, and she got in. And I said to myself, around that time, I thought, my sister and I were making inroads in Hollywood. And I really believe that, to be a proper coach, you should also reach your own extreme dreams. So, when she got signed on with George Clooney is the same year, Bill, that I got my own television show in Hollywood that was global, that 312 million people watched. And I did it, Bill, with those two top-notch entertainment lawyers. And the show cost my sister me to create less than $500.
This just gets better and better. Charlynne, I want to find out more, but at this point, again, I have to let our audience know that you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. Our guest today is Charlynne Boddie. That's spelled Boddie. Her book is True Grit. And Charlynne, we're going to ask you, what is the website where we can find out more about this amazing story?
Well, you can check out charlynne.com. That was my UK website. I will let folks know that we are also bringing a different website that is dedicated just to Extreme Dream. And watch this space. It's coming, because I just moved back to the States just a few months ago. So bear with me, but I will respond if you contact me via charlynne.com, which is spelled CHARLYNNE.com.
And we're hearing so much about this. I'll tell you, I would be surprised if the audience doesn't contact you, because hearing these stories, and most of us feel we're down and out, or we really haven't achieved that level we want. This is our opportunity. Sometimes it's dropped in our lap and we look the wrong way, or we're looking left when it's right. This could be that life-changing moment, like the lotto ticket, except that it would be actually better than a lotto ticket, because it's not a one-time victory. It's a lifetime victory for you and your family. So let me ask you, most of the people you deal with, are they younger, older? Do you see the males, the females, or do they come as a couple, actually?
You know what, Bill? It's everything all over the world. I've had my oldest clients so far were a couple in Athens, Greece. They were 88 years old, and their extreme dreams had many levels to it. And they wept at my feet and begged me to work with them. And they received their extreme dream after working with me, doing the seminar in Athens. I was there in person, and they received their extreme dream for their family within 2 weeks. And people say to me, Charlynne, is that possible? Why was it so short for them? And I say, well, they were already 88 years old. I know that they probably were not going to be on this earth too much longer. So it happened very fast. And I really believe God had a hand in that. And everybody out there, when you're younger, you could have a little bit more time perhaps. But for that elderly couple at age 88, they received their extreme dream, which was quite challenging, within 2 weeks' time. And with others, they're younger. They can be young people. I work with all ages. Young people, CEOs in their 40s, 50s, 60s. I've had grandmothers that have raised their own children and other people's children, and then they suddenly find out what they want to do before they, pass. and they are living the dream extraordinaire. And their husbands have told me it's taken 20 years off of their wives because they become the young bride again that these older men have married. They said, what happened? My gosh, you gave me back my bride again, Char, through this seminar. And I'm like, well, they do the work. I'm just the cheerleader on the side bench, Bill. I'm just the cheerleader.
But your cheering is getting them going there. And I think all of us, when we build up our self-esteem, no matter what it is, it might start out a small restaurant or whatever our goal in life is. When we're doing that, we exude more happiness. We're more of ourselves, what people fell in love with, I guess, when they were younger, the man and the woman. And we're feeling good about ourselves. And that comes out. You can see it in a person's personality. You can tell when you go into a business of any type, whether it's a waitress or a doctor or a nurse, who's enjoying what they're doing, who's really living up to their life's calling, and who's putting in the time because it's a paycheck and they can retire in 6 or 8 or 20 years, whatever it'll be. So I think you've hit on that right nerve. Charlynne, again, I want to emphasize to our audience, you make it simple, and you said right in your book, a lot of people on the show will say, well, I'm not going to spoon feed people, or this isn't a chart, and they go about it differently. They'll talk about success, but they're not giving an outline or a plan. You actually put a grid, GRID, in your book. Yes. Very simple one, but outlining how and what the people should do, if I'm correct. Is that right?
Yeah, we look at all three parts of you, as I said earlier, Bill, the body, soul, and spirit of a person's life. We also look at what are you doing right now? What are you doing for the next 30 days? What are you doing for the next 6 months? What is on your heart to accomplish in that time? And we also look at the next 1 to 5 years for all three parts of your life. What moves you, what motivates you emotionally, what moves you in your spirit, but also what are you doing in the natural world that is either adding to where you want to end up or actually taking away from that. And then I just have 4 simple tips, Bill, and that is really to live your vision every day. And I help you do that. We break it down for every client. And then what are you doing with your time? I think a lot of people in the world say, let me step on everybody to get to the top. But really, I think the best way to get to wherever you need to go is to be ruthless with your time and not people. Thirdly, I believe...
I'm sorry to cut you off. I just got a note. I'm enjoying this so much. I'm running over time. Excuse me. But before we wrap up, I want our audience to know the book is True Grid, GRID, by our guest, Charlynne Boddie, BODDIE. And give us that website one more time.
It's charlynne.com, just my first name, and that's spelled CHARLYNNE.com.
Charlynne, thank you so much. You've been really informative and a lot of fun. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
I'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we'll continue our journey to success.